Hey, Ohio, it is August 30th, 2025, and we need to talk about this citizen-led ballot initiative that is trying to abolish property taxes and why it would be devastating to Ohio communities. I was listening to Today, Ohio, and I about choked on my breakfast when they said a recent poll was done, and in that poll, 61% of Ohioans said they would vote to abolish property taxes if this got on the ballot. And everybody needs to know how catastrophic that would be here. Our property taxes help fund public education, emergency response systems like EMS, fire departments, parks, libraries, some elder care services, local road repairs. It is vital. That money is vital, right, for local communities. And it is, if we abolish property taxes, that's $20 billion. Poof, gone. To help fund those local community services with no feasible way. They have presented no feasible way and how we are going to make up this lost revenue. And I know people are frustrated because their property taxes continue to go up, but you know who you need to blame for that? Our Republican-led legislature that has been in power for over 30 years and continues to underfund through our state budget local community services, right, that we all rely upon. So then those local entities have to get a levy on the ballot, get it to pass, and then that makes your property taxes go up, right? And why do the Republicans in our state house keep shorting funding for those local governments, local community services? Because they want to continue to give tax breaks, income tax breaks, to the wealthiest people in this state. That is why. That is why it is the most fiscally irresponsible thing that has happened here. And everybody needs to know that it is the Republicans in charge that have led us to this place right now. And of course, in our state budget, and more recently with this property tax reform working group that they have, you will see these Republicans keep putting forth proposals that they say, oh, I know, we'll lower property taxes by, and then watch, every single proposal they make is either trying to make it harder to get a levy on the ballot for those local services, or harder to make those levies to pass, right? So they've gutted funding at the state level for these local goods and services, and now they're handcuffing those local goods and services from being able to raise funds to sustain themselves. This is ridiculous. There are more feasible ways to give property tax relief to the people of Ohio, and Democrats have proposed some of those ways. And unfortunately, because they're the minority in our state house, those things go nowhere. So things like the property tax circuit breaker, things like increasing the homestead exemption, the income cap for that, so the more seniors aren't taxed out of their homes, or people with disabilities. These are feasible ways to actually give property tax relief to people without gutting or handcuffing local community services from getting funding, okay? And at the end of the day, though, I mean, this seems like it's their MO. It seems like this is what Republicans want. They would love nothing more than to gut funding for public education. And if we abolish property taxes in this state, you will see all of your public schools fail. Because that is almost, in a lot of cases, that is half of the funding of your school is paid for in property taxes. Now, it shouldn't be that much, right? It's because our Republican leaders are shorting public schools in the state budget, right? So we have to rely on property taxes to run our schools. And then if you go and you abolish those property taxes, your school, you're going to lose teachers. You're going to, class sizes are going to balloon then, right? Because you have less teachers. You're going to lose intervention specialists. So kids that have special needs, they're not going to be able to get the help that they need. You're going to lose busing, right? Just like we've seen in Dayton, you're not going to have bus service. So you're going to have to figure out, okay, how am I going to get my kid to and from school? And especially if you're a working parent like me, it's really hard. You're like, oh shoot, now I got to figure out how we're going to get them to and from school. No more after school programs. That's not happening. And the school is going to suffer, right? And a lot of schools will likely close. And I think that is the motivation here, because that makes it easier for them to come in and try to privatize education completely in this state. That is what's going to happen. And if you're just one of these people sitting there going, well, why should I care about what happens with schools? I don't have kids, or my kids are done with school. Why should I have to pay property taxes to support schools? I've said this before, and I will say it again, and I will say it to the day I die. Everybody benefits from other people's kids being educated. every single person. But let's put that aside for a second. What about emergency, response? What about when you call 911 because you have an emergency or your house is on fire and nobody shows up because they got rid of property taxes, and now, those emergency response departments, they are spread too thin. They can't get to everybody in your community, and you or one of your loved ones gets really injured or dies because they couldn't get there in time. Then are you going to think it's a good idea to abolish property taxes? No. This is a horrible idea. It is so irresponsible, and everybody needs to be talking to their neighbors. If you're in a public school system, you all need to be talking to each other, because this is going to affect public school more than anything. And so it is a horrible idea. There are better ways to give property tax relief to people, but you know what you need to do? You need to vote for Democrats in our state, Democratic lawmakers, because the Republicans in our state continue to lead us to the mess that we're in right now. So vote these people out. Tell everybody you know, do not vote for this abolishing of property taxes. There's a better way to do this that doesn't gut local services and basically kill our public school system.